I know who I am. I know what I shall be. I know where I'm going. I won't let you stop me. I know who I am. I know what I shall be. I know where I'm going. I won't let you stop me. I won't let you stop me. I won't let you stop me. I've been telling stories for 25 years now. I've been telling stories to adults and children alike. For years, I've been telling this story called Tree Children. Little did I know that I was telling my own story. And I didn't realize that until 10 years later after telling the story again and again. My name is Ramona King, and I'm a storyteller. And this is my story. I don't know much about my mother, but what I do remember are her bare, calloused feet, crossed leg over leg in a lotus position, prepared for her to tell us stories on this blanket she called the magic carpet. She'd open up her palms, and then she'd begin. A long, long time ago, there was this old woman. She never had a husband, and she never had children, but these she wanted all her life. She sit in her house waiting her last days. She sang, I've been staring and glaring in this empty room all alone. I've been staring and glaring in this empty room all alone. I wish those dreams, those precious dreams, I wish they'd all come true. She'd get up from her house and she'd go to the medicine man's house and she'd say to the medicine man, oh medicine man, you who can do all things, I want you to give me a husband and children. And the medicine man, he looked at her and he said, you want a husband and children? I can give you one of these things, but I cannot give you two. So the old woman, she thought about it for a while. She said, a husband? He would give me joy in my last days, eh? And the women in the village, they say, he'll give me a headache too. But children, children. Children tell each other stories. And when they get older, they will tell my story to their children. And when they get older, they'll tell my story to their children. And it will go on and on and on. I could live forever through my children. So the old woman told the medicine man, this is what I want. Children is what I want. So the medicine man said, very well. This is what you must do. You go home and get your pots. You clean them until they're shiny new. Then you take your clean pots to the north woods. You search and search and search for the great sycamore tree. When you find that tree, you climb up that tree, pick the fruit from the tree, fill your pots, and then take your full pot home. Leave them there, and then you walk away, and you go away for several hours. So the old woman, she looked at the medicine man, and she waited for more. And then she said, is this it? And he said, no, there's one more thing. And if you forget everything else I told you, just remember this. When you speak, be careful what you speak to the ones you love. The old woman, she said, surely I can do this. So she thanked the medicine man. And she went home and she did exactly what he told her to do. She got her pots and she cleaned them till they were shiny new. Then she took her clean pots to the north woods. She searched and searched and searched for the great sycamore tree. When she found the tree, she climbed up that tree, picked the fruit from the tree until her pots were full. Then she took her full plots home. She left them there, and she walked away. She was gone for several hours. Finally, she began walking back home. And as she was walking, soon she could hear singing. It's that singing I hear. She's walking. Soon she could hear laughter. It's that laughter I hear. She's walking. And soon she's running to her house. And when she gets there, she sees children everywhere. And she looks and she says, my wish, it has come true. Children everywhere. This woman, she dropped to her knees and she was so grateful. Well, she walked into her house to see the children had cooked the meal. She walked out of the house and then went to put the kettle in. But the children had already taken in the kettle. This woman said, these children are every mother's dream. Every mother's dream. Now my mother, she played with us. She'd cut outlined paper doll dresses edged with tabs to fit perfectly over a paper doll cutout. She'd take cardboard boxes and cut a square to make a cardboard house window. Then she'd take cellophane paper and tape it beyond the edges frame to make glass window panes. My mother would take cereal boxes and cut them up to make a cardboard couch. Cotton from medicine bottles she'd use to cushion the couch, and she'd drape it over with patches of fabric, sew it, and then drape that over the couch, that stiff cardboard couch frame. My mother could make reality like a dream. There were times when she didn't even feel real. So this old woman, she had good times with her children, day after day after day after day. And these children were magical to her. She loved these children. She loved her life. But one day, something happened. We don't know what it was. Maybe she got up on the wrong side of the bed that morning. Maybe she had a spat with her neighbor. We don't know what happened, but she got up on the wrong side and she was in a bad temper. A very bad temper. My parents, they fought a lot. I remember I could hear the fall of the dresser drawer. I could hear stomping and shuffling above my head. There was words shooting out fiercely. I couldn't make out what they were saying, but the words, the energy spoke for itself. My house felt like it was in some kind of whirlwind with gusts of chaos. I was a little girl, not knowing what to do. How do you make big people stop doing bad things to each other? And I wanted to make them stop. And I remember on that one occasion when my mother was gagging for air. She was saying my name. She stretched out my name with this long stretch of what sounded like her last breath. I didn't know what to do. I had never gone to church, but at that moment, I knew exactly what to do. I dropped to my knees and I screamed and cried, "Oh God, please don't let Daddy kill Mommy. Please don't let Daddy kill Mommy." I don't know if God heard me, but I know my daddy did, and he let her go. So in this story, the old woman has the words of love just above her head. But for that moment when she can smell smoke in the air and she's trying to figure out what happened, she follows the smoke that she smells on that time when she's not in her good mood. And she finds the food burning, burning, burning. Food the children had left behind when they went off to play. And she was not happy. And she hollered, "Who is responsible for this?" And she told the children to come here and tell me now. And the children, they came to find out why their mother was so angry. And they saw and they remembered. The old woman said, "Who is responsible for this?" Well, the children were so fearful of their mom because she spoke so angrily. Their voices were caught in their throat. One of the children, wanting not to upset their mother, picked up a plate, came to their mother to show her they did not mean anything by this thing. They were all very sorry. But she yelled and screamed so much the child's hands shook. And soon the plate dropped down to the ground. And the old woman, she looked at the broken plate and she said, "What is wrong with you? You dropped this plate. You banned food. You think I have all the resources to take care of all of you? I don't have the resources. There are so many of you. I cannot take care of all of you. What do I expect of you? You are nothing more than 3 children. That's all you are. You're nothing more than 3 children." And with that, the old woman, she stormed out of the door and she was gone for several hours. My mother told us she was going to the store. She told us she was going to the store, so we all went outside to play. We went up the street, down the street, around the house, and back inside the house. We played and played and played. And night was falling. Each of us looked out the window. And we sat down on the couch. Our father was a trucker, and he wouldn't be home for a few days. We cried ourselves to sleep. We woke up the next day, still no mother. And I wanted to tell a neighbor, but my mother told me that when you tell neighbors that you're home alone, the social worker will come and get you. And so I said nothing. We just continued to play outside and then come inside. But a neighbor did see us, and she came across the street. And she looked down at me and she said, I was just maybe about 8 years old, 9 years old. She looked down at me and she said, "Honey, where's your mother?" And I told her she went to the store. And she said, "When did she go to the store?" And I said, "Yesterday." And that's when my little sister pulled at my shirt and she said, not yesterday, because we went to bed with the dark 2 times. And the neighbor, she took us to her house, and we stayed there until our father showed up. When he came, he took us to Brooklyn to stay with our cousin Ann. We lived in Queens, she lived in Brooklyn. I hated going to Brooklyn. She made bad burgers, and the kids were tough. But you know, I was a smart kid. I got A's in school. I threw myself in my schoolwork. And I remember one time the teacher there, she took us on a trip, and she noticed that I didn't have a lunch. Well, actually, I had a sack and an orange in it. That was my lunch. And she said, "Is that all you brought with you?" And I said, "It's all that was in the refrigerator." And she said, "You mean there was nothing else for you to bring to school?" And I said, no, ma'am. And so she went into her sack and she pulled out a sandwich and then she gave it to me. She said, I knew there'd be somebody to share my lunch with. So the sun rose and the sun set, and the sun rose and the sun set. And my father was the only one taking care of us. And there were other people who came by. Even my father's ex-wife, and that totally did not work out. And then one day, my father told me, it's time. Just as that old woman who walked away and was gone for several hours came to herself. And it was time. She said, I yelled at my children. I told them so many mean things. The look on their eyes, their face. I will go back and I will tell my children. My mother, their mother is so sorry. Did not mean all that I say to them. I will go back to my children. I will go back and talk to my children. And so my father, he talked to us, and he told me that we were all going to foster care. We went to the Family Services building. And when we went to the Family Services building, my sister was not happy, and my brother was very worried. My brother had cerebral palsy, and he looked up at me. He was about 5 years old. He looked up at me and he says, Ramona, where are we going? And I said, we're going to go to somebody else's house. He said, can't Daddy go with us? Can Daddy go with us? I want Daddy to come with us. And I said, no, Sully, Daddy's going to go somewhere else. We're going to stay with somebody else until Daddy can come and get us. He said, but I don't want to go with somebody else. I want to go home with Daddy. I looked at my brother and I said, sweetie, I don't know what to tell you. It's going to be okay. And so my sister, who's the tough one, she's the one under me. She never cried, you know? But on this day, she was sniveling. And then finally she said, get the out of here. She said, I'm getting home with Daddy. Forget this. Y'all just move out of my way. Move, right? She was only 7 years old. And our little sister, Crystal, she sat in the social worker's car, 3 years old, wiping the tears from her eyes. So we all gathered in the back seat of the social worker's car. My brother and sisters, they snuggled up under me, and they cried and wept. But I didn't cry. I held myself well. I mean, someone had to be the strong one. Someone had to hold it together. Someone had to be there for my brothers and sisters. I was the oldest, and it was going to be me. So I looked out the back window of the car at my father, who was standing at the curb with his head down. He didn't even look back to wave at us. He just put his hands in his pocket, stepped off the curb, and he walked away. So finally, the old woman, she began walking toward her house. And she strained to hear the children singing. But there was no singing. She walked and walked and walked, and she strained to hear the laughter. There was no laughter. She walked and walked and walked. Soon she was running to the house. And when she looked, she could see no children. She cried, "Where are my children?" She ran to her neighbor's house. Have you seen my children? No, we have not seen your children. Have you seen my children? No, we have not seen your children. She cried, my children, where are my children? She ran to the medicine man's house. And she told the medicine man all that had happened. And the medicine man said, old woman, did I not tell you? When you speak, be careful what you speak to the ones you love. And the old woman, she said, I know you told me this, but I had a moment, just a moment of time, where I lost it with my children. Surely there's something that I can do. And the medicine man told her, woman, there's nothing you can do. These were special children. They are gone. So the old woman, she thanked the medicine man. And when she walked away, she did what any determined mother would do. She said, if it worked the first time, it will work the second time. She went home. She got her pots. She cleaned them, till they were shiny new. Then she took her pots to the north woods. She searched and searched for the great sycamore tree. When she found that tree, she climbed up the tree. She reached up to pick the fruit from the tree. But when she pulled, the fruit would not come down. She pulled and she tugged and she pulled. But the fruit, it would not come down. Then she turned the fruit over in her hand. And the fruit parted eyes. And from those eyes, the water poured down to the grassy ground. Soon this woman, she's sitting in the tree, and she could feel like a bucket of water pouring down on her. Her hair was wet, her face was wet, her clothes were soaked, and she looked up to see that all of the fruit in that tree had parted eyes. And from those eyes, the water poured down to the grassy ground. And that's when the old woman realized that the children, they had accepted her words, that they were nothing more than tree children. And with that, the old woman, she climbed down from that tree with her empty pots. And she sat at the bottom of the tree. She sat there, and in her memory, flooded with all the laughter and the singing of her children. In her memory, flooded the meals that the children made for her. The times when they cleaned the home and brought in the kettle. She could have the memory of the children singing and dancing. And then she could see her words coming at the children like darts, darts fired right at their heart. And there her heart broke and poured broken water of sorrow. And at that point, one piece of fruit fell down into her wet lap, then another, and another, and another, and another. Soon, there was a load of fruit right there in her lap. And when she looked down, these fruit with parted eyes looked at her, and she looked at them. And when she looked at them, she knew that they were just tree children. And when they looked at her, they knew that she was just an old woman. awaiting her last days. And so, they say in Kenya, in other countries on the continent of Africa, there's an elder who sits under a tree. An elder who sits under the tree, and as the people pass by, the elder reminds them, love them well. These children, they are your future. They are your story. They are the eternity of you. Love them well. When me and my brother and sisters went into foster care, we took the blanket that our mother told us stories on, and we'd spread that blanket on the floor, and we'd tell stories to each other right there in foster care. And we carried that blanket with us right through to adulthood. To this day, when my brother and sisters and I meet, we hold memories of the blanket. And when I tell stories to other people, to audiences all around, I spread a blanket on the floor in memory of the stories my mother told to us. And when I tell a story, any story, each story I tell, it's a call for all parents to love them well. My brother, sisters, and I were foster kids and tree children. We're special children, and yours are too. They are your stories eternal. Thank you for listening.